Part 72. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 715. The coastal war zone is adjacent to the coast and has a vast area. There are beaches on the seaside, cities on the land, and mountains in the distance. The scenery is pleasant and it is actually a tourist attraction in peacetime. However, the arrival of the war also destroyed the ecology here. There are ruins everywhere in the city, there are potholes on the beach, and there are traces of war everywhere. However, Wang Ling and the others had long been accustomed to this and remained unmoved. After having the planned goal in mind, the coalition forces and the vanguard forces of the Allied forces quickly changed direction and headed straight for the outskirts of the urban area occupied by Yuri Base. This Yuri Base has become very strong after a long period of development. Yuri recruits are stationed in many completed high-rise buildings in the city. As a natural battle bunker, its firepower is very powerful. When the local coalition and allied forces attacked, we have suffered enough in this regard. However, Wang Ling didn't take this kind of defensive posture seriously. When the troops were marching, he directly ordered the armed helicopters to get into position and took the lead in storming those buildings. There are Yuri recruits stationed in the building, and they are indeed very powerful. Even if the apocalypse tanks come to attack, they will still suffer. However, this powerful firepower could not provide air defense. The armed helicopters maintained their Air Force attitude and attacked these garrison buildings with unscrupulousness. In a short time, they killed more than 10 buildings, and soon after, more than 10 more exploded. Even the exposed group of Yuri recruits were shot and killed, and a broad road was soon opened, and all the garrison buildings in the surrounding area were cleared. When the building it was guarding was destroyed, the Yuri base certainly did not sit still and wait for death. A series of 10 jet tanks and 5 laser UFOs rushed out, trying to counterattack the group of armed helicopters. However, this group of armed helicopters did not confront them head-on. After cleaning up the target building, they turned around and returned. At this time, the vanguard units of the two armies, led by agents Wang Ling and Tanya, had all arrived at the outskirts of the city and quickly got off the bus or jumped off the plane. It happened that the 10 Getter tanks and 5 laser UFOs had already arrived here. As a result, a group of anti-aircraft crawlers opened fire quickly and almost shot them down. Wang Ling also raised his abnormal AK rifle and fired. Sweeping across at the speed of a Gatling gun, 10 Get tanks exploded one after another at the speed of firecrackers. Although he knew how powerful Wang Ling was, seeing him kill those 10 Get tanks effortlessly with his own eyes, Agent Tanya still looked at him with some suspicion. You are really getting more and more perverted. Wang Ling, however, shouldered the gun and sneered, I will be even stronger in the future. No more gossip, let's fight quickly. After speaking, Wang Ling waved his hand, and more than 30 armed helicopters quickly moved forward and deployed in 3 rows. The front row position happened to be within the air defense range of the Getter cannons in Yuri Base. After deploying with firepower, a row of cannons opened fire one after another, demolishing all the Getter cannons and mind control towers within the firepower range. And these few shots, like a slap on the monkey's butt, made the entire Yuri base furious. The troops that were originally stationed on a large scale to attack the coalition base were actually half sent out to try to wipe out the attacking troops. The army has as many as 200 infantrymen and nearly 40 tanks and vehicles of various types, which is like the total strength of a large field group. Such a large-scale counterattack, on the surface, seems dense, and it is inevitable that it will be a bit permeable. However, both agents Wang Ling and Tanya have long been accustomed to such large-scale operations. Now they are not panicking. Each carries a pistol or a rifle, walks to the group of armed helicopters, and orders the armed helicopters to temporarily cease fire. Then, Wang Ling threw down his rifle and swept across at an extremely exaggerated speed. Large-scale infantrymen fell in pieces, and all kinds of tanks also exploded rapidly. If this pattern continues, this large number of especially I'm afraid there aren't even enough troops to support him alone. Hey, leave some for me. As a result, Agent Tanya became anxious and scolded him with both guns in hand. Tisk, trouble. Wang Ling was a little impatient, but he still gave her a favor and temporarily converted into a Special Forces level SEAL team, and then ordered the armed helicopters to continue the bombardment. However, they were specialized in attacking getter tanks and virus snipers, while the elite-level armed helicopters bombarded magnetic fields. Electric tanks, occasionally blasting tornado tanks to draw firepower. Without the firepower of the elite combat soldiers at the King of Soldiers level, the attacking Yuri troops instantly lost a major fatal threat. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the entire army charged quickly. As for the two types of troops that the armed helicopters killed alone, but they didn't take it to heart. However, after the large force approached, Wang Ling suddenly opened fire again. Although the firepower of the Special Forces SEALs was not as good as that of the elite combat soldiers of the King of Soldiers class, the rate of fire and range should not be underestimated, especially the whole group. The infantry here were attacked, and they fell down in rows, unable to get close at all. Only the tornado tank and the subsequent mind-controlled vehicles could get closer, but what they encountered was a strong attack by Tanya's agents. Several bombs were planted, and all the tanks and vehicles exploded in response. Under such division of labor and cooperation, the Yuri troops who counterattacked rarely touched the vanguard of the two armies, and were all wiped out. Subsequently, the armed helicopter continued to advance forward, moving from the rear to the front, gradually applying pressure and gradually destroying it. Agents Wang Ling and Tanya followed closely behind, destroying all the invading Yuri troops and extracting teeth bit by bit. And this Yuri base finally knew how powerful this group of troops was, and it was panicked for a while. It wasn't until the armed helicopters had taken out half of the base's defensive buildings that they gritted their teeth and dispatched all the remaining guards at once, forcibly resist this group of attacking troops. However, the two heroic units Wang Ling and Tanya have joined forces and are almost invincible. Coupled with the fire suppression of armed helicopters and numerous infantry, the combined force of all the Yuri guards cannot threaten them. During the counterattack, instead of causing many casualties to the vanguards of the two armies, they themselves were quickly wiped out. After all the guards were eliminated, all the armed helicopters continued to attack the remaining defensive buildings of Yuri's base from a distance, while others, together with agents Wang Ling and Tanya, dismantled the main buildings of the base one after another. The entire team together is like a barbaric bandit, destroying wherever it goes. The Yuri base, which was originally a powerful base, even planned to station troops to attack the coalition base, but unexpectedly, reinforcements suddenly came to kill it and wiped it out. He destroyed the entire base and died inexplicably. In this battle, not to mention Yuri's base, even the guards in the coalition base were stunned. There are some reinforcements coming, and they will cause trouble as soon as they arrive. When we arrived at the war zone, we didn't even go to the base. We took the lead in destroying a Yuri base. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 716. It's no wonder that these guards would be surprised. Normally, the main purpose of the reinforcements is to ensure the safety of the base. Only after the base is stabilized first will they send troops to attack. But these two troops were lucky. They came all the way to the coastal theater and didn't even enter the base. Instead, they immediately went to attack Yuri's base. The most important thing is that they actually captured it, and the number of casualties was very small. In addition to being dumbfounded, this scene was inevitably a bit dumbfounding. But upon closer consideration, one can realize how powerful these two troops are. Yes, both agents Wang Ling and Tanya are the type of daring people who are skilled in art. However, these two people got together and became even more powerful. They led the vanguard to the battlefield as reinforcements and killed them immediately. A Yuri base, this is really not surprising, it is very similar to their style. Of course, no matter how much they expand, these two people have not expanded to the extent that they intend to sweep through the 4 Yuri bases with these troops. It is not that easy to destroy the Yuri base in the city. The remaining 3 Yuri bases are already wary. After attacking, the two simply stopped when they saw fit, assembled their troops, each took their vehicles, and rushed towards the coalition base in a hurry. Many guards in the coalition base, whether they were coalition forces or allied forces, all saw what these two people were doing. After the two led their team to the base, the entire base was a bit fried. Agent Tanya was obviously more active. She jumped out of the helicopter first and stretched her lazy waist. This sexy figure actually attracted the attention of many allied guards. After the collective salute, some even said proudly, "Haha, Agent Tanya. I finally meet her in person, the goddess of war, she is indeed powerful and beautiful." Agent Tanya had long been accustomed to such expressions and words, so she didn't care. After returning the greeting, she went to look at the coalition base on her own. At this time, coalition troops also stepped off the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles one after another. Wang Ling was not as active as Agent Tanya. He was the last one to get out of the car. After seeing him, many coalition guards also hurriedly gave military salutes. As a hero-level unit of the coalition forces, although Wang Ling has only been on the battlefield for a short time, he has already become famous throughout the coalition forces. Even if many coalition officers and soldiers have never met Wang Ling, they have heard of his name and know him. The presence. More importantly, his attire as an elite combat soldier was too obvious. Wang Ling didn't put on any airs and returned the gesture solemnly. "Oh, brother Wang Ling, I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect you to become stronger and stronger, so strong that I have to look up to you. You killed a Yuri base as soon as you came here. This record is simply incredible." After returning the gift, a man suddenly walked out of the defenders, opened his arms, and hugged Wang Ling's young. "Haha, sun chiming. Brother, long time no see." Wang Ling obviously still remembered this man, and he also opened his arms and hugged each other. It was a coincidence that the coalition base stationed in this coastal theater turned out to be the base of General Lugo Er. Speaking of which, Wang Ling and General Lugo Er are somewhat destined. On the battlefield where they returned from the police dog training base, General Lugo Er and General Li Wiki resisted the Allies together. On the decisive battlefield, both sides' bases were all stationed in the seaside city. Only Yuri's change separated them. Unexpectedly, today we met with General Lugo Er's base again due to the shift of the battlefield. The person hugging Wang Ling right now is also General Lugo Er's right-hand man, the dog team leader Sun Chiming. This Sun Chiming had always been on good terms with Wang Ling. After being apart for a while, when they met again, it was so warm. After the bear hug, they pestered him happily and told him about the battles of those days. After not seeing each other for a long time, Wang Ling was happy to talk to him. The two of them chatted for a long time as if no one else was around. Only then did Sun Chiming suddenly remember something and hurriedly pulled Wang Ling to the command post. Now, General Lugo Er was also looking forward to it in the command post. After seeing Wang Ling coming and saluting, he happily returned the salute, then patted Wang Ling on the shoulder, making no secret of his appreciation. "Good guy, all of you are here. It is the only hero-level unit in the army. It has repeatedly made military exploits on other battlefields and has conquered 2 major war zones. It's really awesome." "General, that's ridiculous." Wang Ling smiled lightly, having long been used to this kind of praise. However, what General Lugo Er did next caught Wang Ling by surprise. This General Lugo Er actually had a sly look on his face, touched Wang Ling's arm with his elbow, and said seductively, "What do you mean? You have become the hero of the entire army, why are you still following that old guy Li Wiki? Isn't this a disservice to your talent?" That old guy is too cautious in doing things, but you can't exert your deterrence. Why don't you follow me? Let's cooperate. Hey, Yuri is nothing for it. Wang Ling was shocked and didn't know what to say. This General Luo is still the same as before, always thinking about poaching. He has been thinking about Wang Ling for more than a day or two. Now that they have reunited after a long separation, they just met and took advantage of General Li Wiki's absence to start poaching again. Moreover, this General Luo has no consciousness of being a general at all. He speaks dirty words and says whatever comes to his mind. Wang Ling was not only embarrassed by these words, but even his old subordinate Sun Chiming tugged at the corner of his mouth. After a while, Wang Ling came back to his senses, smiled bitterly and shook his head. Thank you, General, for your kindness. However, Yuri's spiritual empire can compete with us to this extent. We must not take a peek, otherwise we will suffer the loss. It's better to be more cautious when dealing with the Soul Empire. General Li Wiki has done nothing wrong in this regard. To be honest, with Wang Ling's current ability and status, he could completely break away and serve as the commander himself, but he was used to being free and easy and really didn't want to do this, so he stayed under the command of General Li Wiki. As time went by, he got used to General Li Wiki's style. He really didn't want to change bases easily, and he didn't want to let General Li Wiki feel cold. These words were just tactful and polite words, which could be regarded as a step down for each other. If it were someone else, he would just do it like this, but General Luo was too lazy to worry about it. He waved his hand and said impatiently, "What are you talking about? That old guy is too cautious. In your case, how come what you say has become a benefit?" Wang Ling was speechless for a moment. This General Luo was too straightforward. If other people were straightforward, Wang Ling was easy to communicate with, but Luo was already a lieutenant general, and he said bad things about General Li Wiki in front of Wang Ling, which was really embarrassing for Wang Ling. After listening to him for a while, Wang Ling just found an excuse and slipped out. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 717. Second General Luo's temper is still the same as before, and his words catch people off guard. After escaping from the command post, Wang Ling became emotional. But Sun Chiming smiled and said, "Yes, the most straight-tempered general in the entire army must be General Luo. However, being straight-tempered is actually quite good. I have long been accustomed to General Luo's style, although sometimes I still will be struck by lightning." Wang Ling couldn't laugh or cry for a moment, but now that he had escaped, he didn't think about these things anymore. He quickly found the elite troops of the Wolf Group and the Eagle Group and made detailed arrangements. When other reinforcements arrive at this base, the command will have to be handed over to General Luo to provide unified command of the operations. However, after all, Wang Ling is a heroic unit of the coalition with great military exploits and a special status. The troops under his command do not need to hand over the command. Go out. For the same reason, Agent Tanya ignored General Luo at all, let alone handed over command. After this day of running around, the coalition and allied base vehicles in the Eastern Plains Theater have now moved under the escort of many troops. However, the base vehicles and large troops march faster than helicopters and anti-aircraft tracks. The car was too far behind. It would take several days to reach the coastal war zone. In the past few days, Wang Ling and the others could only protect General Luo's base and the entire coastal theater. As for the coastal theater, even though several groups of reinforcements arrived before, Yuri base did not take it too seriously. Compared with the number of their troops, there were several large-scale assaults to break through this coalition base. Not difficult. However, now that agents Wang Ling and Tanya arrived with the vanguard force, it directly changed this situation. Indeed, the total number of their vanguards is not too much, and it is only dwarfed by the strength of several Yuri bases. However, this group of vanguards cannot be measured by common sense at all, and their combat effectiveness is so powerful. It can't be judged by quantity at all. As soon as they arrived at the coastal theater, they didn't even have time to rest, and they directly killed a base. How could they not be frightened? With the arrival of this kind of strong support, victory was already guaranteed, but now a huge change has occurred, making it impossible for the remaining Yuri bases to calm down, and even felt like they were sitting on pins and needles. As a result, when agents Wang Ling and Tanya arrived at General Luo Er's base, the commanders of the three Yuri bases could not sit still. The attack that was originally planned to be launched after the troops had been stationed for some time was actually put forward in advance. The schedule was set, and they planned to launch a surprise attack while Wang Ling and Agent Tanya were unable to gain a firm foothold. However, when he was in the Eastern Plains war zone, Wang Ling faced even more dangerous situations than this, and he survived them all, let alone now. General Luo Er's base still has strong combat effectiveness, and Wang Ling's elite combat soldiers have been upgraded to the top level. With the firepower assistance of Agent Tanya, they are not afraid of a battle at this level. After coming out of the command post, not long after the defense was deployed, Wang Ling saw the movements of Yuri base in the electronic video and smiled a little playfully. It seems that our arrival has added a lot of pressure to Yuri base. Now we have already sat down, can't stand it anymore. After hearing this, Agent Tanya, who was not far away, twirled her guns very coolly and smiled confidently. What's there? Kill as many as you come. Before the two of them arrived with their team, the remaining guards of this base were already unable to withstand this level of impact. Now that they saw Yuri base starting to mobilize troops on a large scale, they subconsciously felt a little nervous. However, agents Wang Ling and Tanya were both talented and bold. They blurted out two sentences, as if they didn't take these Yuri troops to heart. Their confident tone made others feel inexplicably. Sense of security. Sun Chiming felt this change, and he had mixed feelings in his heart. Everyone has to die. When Brother Wang Ling came, the morale of the entire army changed. Is this the deterrent power of a heroic unit? Not only him, but also General Luo Er could feel it. On the one hand, he was very pleased, but on the other hand, he was still thinking about how to poach this corner. However, Wang Ling did not notice their thoughts. When the three major Yuri bases began to mobilize troops, he had already commanded the vanguard troops and launched defense together with the base guards. Wang Ling has carried out similar deployment work too many times, and his troops have already adapted to it. They quickly deployed according to the instructions and were ready. The coastal war zone is very large, even compared to the Eastern Plains war zone and the Holy City war zone. It takes a long time to move troops from the three major Yuri bases. During this period, agents Wang Ling and Tanya remained stationary, waiting for work. They waited for several hours before Yuri's vanguard troops gradually arrived at the edge of the base. However, Yuri seemed to be aware of the difficulty of this battle. Yuri did not dare to charge alone. Instead, he stationed outside and waited for a long time until all the troops were assembled before officially starting a powerful charge. After waiting for so long, the agents Wang Ling and Tanya were already a little impatient. When the enemy troops approached, the air defense troops couldn't wait any longer and quickly stepped forward and opened fire. Among Yuri's troops who came to attack, there were quite a lot of air force. There were more than 30 laser UFOs in total. Not to mention the ground troops, this group of air force units alone could conquer cities and territories. If it were used as an ordinary base, improper defense may lead to collapse. Dong 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 dong. Dong 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 dong. However, the devil is taller than the road, and Wang Ling has a lot of anti-aircraft tracked vehicles under his command. In conjunction with the anti-aircraft force in General Luoyer's base, they all attack together. Dozens of gun barrels fire in volleys, the sky is full of artillery fire, and the sound of cannons is endless. The more than 30 laser UFOs were hit head-on and fell one after another, making it difficult to break through this layer of blockade. Swish swish swish. Swish swish swish. Since they couldn't break through, the remaining laser UFOs simply launched a counter-attack on the spot, specifically bombarding the anti-aircraft crawler vehicles. The ground-to-air battle was extremely fierce for a while, with troops from both sides dying at all times. Dong dong. Dong 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 dong. Dong 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 dong. The impact of Yuri's troops this time was a joint attack by large forces. At the same time as the laser UFO attack, ground troops also broke into this area. As a result, dozens of cannons blasted out at once, hitting the head. Gate tanks are exploding in flakes. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. And despite the bombardment, Wang Ling opened fire soon after. The firepower of the elite combat soldiers poured down, and all the Get tanks would die if they touched it. Even the Gust tanks were here. It exploded rapidly under the joint bombardment. The entire Yuri force suffered fatal blows almost every moment during this charge, and its numbers were reduced sharply at all times. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 718. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Once Wang Ling opened fire, he would not stop easily, which was unfortunate for Yuri's troops. His ultra-long-range fire suppression, Gatling gun-like firing rate, and powerful power, combined together, are like the god of death, causing all enemy tanks within the fire range to burst into flames. The infantry team was even worse. The tornado tank could at least hold on for a few seconds and forcefully charge forward. However, the infantry could not withstand Wang Ling's shooting. Even the powerful orcs could only be killed by Wang Ling's strafing fire. For an instant kill, hundreds of Yuri infantry charged together, but in the end they were unable to get even an inch out of Wang Ling's fire range. Even if they just took a step forward, they would be shot dead immediately. It was true that one man was a barrier and no one could get away. If this momentum is maintained and Wang Ling's firepower is always matched with the armed helicopters, it may be difficult for this group of Yuri troops to break in. The other officers, soldiers, generals, and many tanks and vehicles who coordinate the defense will be just like spectators. Among this group of onlookers, the most dissatisfied agent was undoubtedly Agent Tanya. The war made her a strong fighter, but she was also very dedicated to the war. This time she finally encountered a large-scale battle again, which always made her she couldn't bear to be a spectator, and her hands were itching terribly. Fortunately, Wang Ling did not intend to block the entire Yuri force alone. When Agent Tanya impatiently planned to interrupt him, Wang Ling suddenly stopped. Indeed, with his current fighting power, it is not difficult to win this battle alone. However, this is a war. You can't always rely on him to fight alone, right? It is too easy to develop a dependence mentality over time. Moreover, no weapon can be made without polishing it. Whether it is the other soldiers under his command or the guards in the base, they need some training. They cannot always be just spectators and kill people with their eyes. Huh, I thought you had such a big appetite that you wanted to devour all the enemy troops. Wang Ling ceased fire, and the happiest person was Agent Tanya. She glanced at Wang Ling resentfully, turned her guns, and kept staring in front of her. The approaching enemy troops were full of fighting spirit. Wang Ling smiled calmly, shook his head and did not answer her. He just ordered the armed helicopters to stop bombarding and specifically bombard the magneto-electric tanks mixed in the team to protect himself. Although there are newly produced armed helicopters, but since the continuous battles, most of the troops have been promoted to the elite level, and there is no need to compete for the remaining experience. The most important thing is that the gunship's cannon does splash damage. Although it is fired at the enemy unit, it explodes indiscriminately. If Agent Tanya bombs the tank at close range, it's easy to be accidentally injured. Although Wang Ling really wanted to do this, his reason told him that he couldn't do this during the alliance. Without the firepower of Wang Ling and the armed helicopters, Yuri's troops finally had time to breathe, and then took the opportunity to charge forward quickly. Of course, Wang Ling is not absolutely incapable of participating in the war. He has not transformed into a SEAL, and he is not in a hurry to gain experience. Now he maintains the posture of an elite combat soldier at the king level throughout the whole process, specializing in shooting enemy troops. Getter tanks, viral snipers, and psychic troops. These three types of troops pose too great a threat to Tanya's agents or other guards. Killing them in advance can ensure the safety of the troops. As for the rest of Yuri's troops, there is no need to worry at all. Most of them are left to Tanya's agents to kill them instantly, and some of the fish that slip through the net are eliminated by the base guards. Although Yuri's troops were fierce and outnumbered, they were actually completely blocked by guards such as Wang Ling and Agent Tanya during the attack. The entire ground force did not pose any threat to the coalition base at all. They were divided and annihilated. On the contrary, in the ground-to-air battle, Yuri's troops made some achievements. After all, Wang Ling did not take care of the army of anti-aircraft crawlers. They fought head-on with the laser UFO. Even with the help of the base's anti-aircraft guns, they still lost more than 10 people. Only one vehicle can annihilate all laser UFOs. Originally, the three Yuri bases collectively mobilized troops and launched a large-scale attack. With the strength of the defenders of the coalition base, it was difficult to resist for much longer. However, the arrival of agents Wang Ling and Tanya greatly strengthened the defense force. As a result, this massive group of Yuri troops were wiped out without causing much damage to the coalition base. After this performance was revealed, many guards in the coalition base jumped for joy, but Yuri base became a little restless. It seemed that they were afraid that the coalition forces would take the opportunity to counterattack. The remaining troops did not dare to send out a group attack. Instead, they collectively retreated to the base, changed from active to passive, and started to defend. However, in fact, at this stage, neither Wang Ling nor Agent Tanya had any intention of attacking with force. They were tired from the exhaustion of traveling all the way, and they had fought so many battles here that they didn't have time to rest. It just so happened that it was getting close to dusk, so they could take advantage of this opportunity to have a good rest. That night, Wang Ling returned to the transfer station of the interdimensional system and once again temporarily summoned all the newly promoted elite-level soldiers from the Wolf Group and Eagle Group, and injected them all with basic physical fitness enhancers to enhance their combat effectiveness and survival. The ability has also raised the soldier level limit to the 5-star Special Forces level. After sending back the group of soldiers, Wang Ling summoned Sun Chiming alone. Like other personnel, Sun Chiming accepted the summons, and when he appeared in front of Wang Ling, he had already acquired systematic memory knowledge and knew each other's identity and life nature. He was inevitably a little curious and exclaimed, "Brother Wang Ling, you are not the one with feelings. People from the Red Alert world? No wonder they are so strong. You are cheating in the Red Alert world with the help of the system?" Wang Ling smiled and nodded, "Yes, I am the protagonist in the Red Alert world. Of course I have the aura of the protagonist, and cheating is not new. However, you can also use things from other dimensional systems. For example." Having said this, Wang Ling directly exchanged all the basic enhancers and intermediate enhancers, and explained the pain of injection. When Sun Chiming heard this, he was just like the others and didn't care. It wasn't until he felt the pain during the basic strengthening that he faced it and struggled to survive this period of strengthening. And the subsequent intermediate strengthening made this guy even more miserable and almost collapsed. Fortunately, he persisted in the end. With the recovery ability of the elite warriors and the powerful body after intermediate strengthening, Sun Chiming quickly returned to normal. However, before the training, he was not very skilled in controlling this power. Later, Wang Ling simply converted Sun Chiming into a seal and injected him with a military experience book before giving up. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 719. Since the development of the Red Alert World, except for Wang Ling, only 6 people in this world have been injected with intermediate enhancers, and only 4 of them have switched to other arms. However, Chen Tong, Sun Dehu and Erlu were converted into magnetic blast infantry, while Sun Chiming alone was converted into a seal. This is not a random choice by Wang Ling. There is a saying that goes well, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. As the protagonist of the Red Alert World, he has the title of Hero of the Allied Forces and an extremely powerful combat power. In the future, Wang Ling will in the battle, you will inevitably carry the banner and always fight on the front line with the spiritual empire, which is a heavy responsibility. Sun Dehu and Erlu are his capable subordinates, and Chen Tong has also relied on him recently. When attacking Yuri's base, these 3 people, as high-level magnetic blast infantry, had the most obvious effect. But Sun Chiming is different. After all, he is a subordinate of General Luo Er, and has a relationship with Wang Ling. When Wang Ling ends the battle and moves to other theaters in the future, I am afraid that General Luo Er's base will not be transferred with Wang Ling and the others. Sun Chiming has a heavy burden on his shoulders. His responsibilities are far less heavy than Wang Ling's, but if it comes to guarding bases and war zones, a high-level SEAL team would be more suitable for him. Sun Chiming didn't know these considerations of Wang Ling, but he didn't have much opinion on what kind of arms he could switch to. He was even very satisfied with being able to switch to a SEAL team. After the conversion was successful and the service experience book was injected, Sun Chiming felt so proud. Navy SEALs. Haha, I have been salivating about this service for too long. Killing infantry in an instant is so cool. Wang Ling smiled and shook his head. After he had enough of snarling, he ended the temporary summons and sent Sun Chiming back to the Red Alert World. The rest of the time was naturally spent resting. Wang Ling returned to the real world with ease. Before going to bed, he called and chatted with his friends. He was relieved to learn that they were having a hard time, and then went to sleep. Started playing around with Xiaohei. 6 Who? 6th floor. Why is your dormitory on the 6th floor? You'll be exhausted even if you climb all the floors. Wow. While playing around, a girl's voice suddenly appeared in the corridor. This voice was a bit squeaky, but it sounded quite pleasant. Wang Ling had never heard this voice before. It was probably a buddy from an unknown dormitory in the corridor who had a new girlfriend and brought him back to the dormitory. Although this internship turmoil sent most of the sophomores out, there are always those who are thorny like Wang Ling and remain in the school. Just stay, and even bring someone to the dormitory. Wang Ling, who was single, felt a little envious and jealous after hearing this, but after all, he was almost used to it. Wang Ling just laughed at himself and didn't pay attention to anything. However, Xiaohei seemed to have heard it and felt what Wang Ling was feeling. He barked several times at the door and through the dormitory door, as if to protest on Wang Ling's behalf. The sound was so loud that it could be heard in almost all the dormitories in the corridor, including the girl. She was startled and screamed, complaining, "What happened? There are people in your dormitory building who keep dogs, don't you know I'm afraid of dogs?" The brother who was complained was also a little embarrassed, "What happened to someone else's dog? I can't control it. Do you still want me to throw the dog away? I don't care, I don't want to hear the dog barking again. I'm scared." The sound came out again, and it became farther and farther away, and it was obvious that it had entered the dormitory. The brother who was complained could only shout in the corridor, That dog owner, I'm sorry, my partner is afraid of dogs, can you stop letting the dog bark like that tonight? Please. Fine. Wang Ling also responded through the dormitory door. He didn't take such a trivial matter to heart. Besides, Xiaohei usually didn't bark randomly, so he just wanted to give others face. After responding, Wang Lingke told Xiaohei, "Did you hear that, Xiaohei? Don't scream tonight or scare the little girl again." Miao Xiaohei nodded, but the way he looked at the door seemed to be a little disgusting, and he was obviously dissatisfied with this matter. This naive look made Wang Ling amused. Tonight, this incident was just a minor incident, and Wang Ling didn't take it seriously. After playing with Xiaohei, he lay down on the bed and fell asleep. However, he didn't take it seriously, but the squealing girl seemed to still be in shock. At noon the next day, Wang Ling bought lunch and was eating it when he suddenly heard a series of footsteps, getting closer and closer. During this period, the girl's words were also mixed in. "Old Shui, is that dormitory?" "Yeah, but Lily, what should we do? You don't come here often, and it doesn't offend anyone for raising a dog. Why should we report them?" Yesterday, the guy was still whispering, and he was very weak. When he heard the conversation between the two people, Wang Ling suddenly raised his eyebrows. "This matter is interesting. Yesterday, the girl seemed to be a little pretentious. Wang Ling didn't take it seriously, but this girl caught it. Listening to this, she probably complained to the dormitory or the school leader. Humph, I'm not offending anyone by raising a dog, but is a school a place to raise a dog?" Sure enough, after the boy's voice fell, a middle-aged man's voice came out with a strong voice, most likely calling a certain school leader. This was a big deal. After hearing this, Wang Ling put down his rice bowl and felt somewhat unhappy. Bang bang bang. At this time, the dormitory door had been hammered loudly. Woof woof. Wang Ling was unmoved, but Xiaohei stepped forward, stood up, and skillfully opened the dormitory door, revealing the three people at the door. Two of them were naturally the student couple. The boy was handsome and the girl was pretty, which was quite interesting. The other person, Wang Ling, was even more surprised. This man was 1.8 meters tall and thick, with dark skin, stubble on his face, and a fierce look in his eyes. When Wang Ling saw him, he couldn't help but snickered and said, "Director CAO." When bank staff came to select students for internships, there was an interview process. During this process, Wang Ling bluntly stated that he did not want to do the internship. As a result, a school leader became furious. However, Wang Ling was not polite and directly released his mental pressure. The school leader was so frightened that he turned around and fled the classroom without reprimanding him at all, which left a deep impression on Wang Ling. Wang Ling was not familiar with this school leader at first, but later found out that he was a close aide of the school chairman director CAO. And right now, because of Xiaohei's matter, the person who comes to Wang Ling's dormitory is none other than director CAO. Speaking of which, Wang Ling and director CAO had a certain fate. During their internship, they attracted the angry director CAO, and now because of Xiaohei's incident, they actually attracted him again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 720. After all, it was Xiaohei who opened the door, and his movements were quite large. The moment the dormitory door was opened, the three people outside the door saw it. The boy named Lao Shui had a look of surprise on his face, while the girl named Lily who was chattering hurriedly ran behind Lao Shui, seeming a little scared. As for Director CAO, when he saw that the doorman was a dog, his originally angry face actually showed some surprise, which was a bit funny considering his size. Director CAO. Before the three of them could calm down, Wang Ling had already taken the initiative to say hello, and then interrupted the three of them. Lao Shui and Lily didn't know Wang Ling's terror, so they didn't feel anything at all. However, when Director CAO saw Wang Ling, his face trembled twice in succession, and he was obviously very frightened. But instead of reprimanding him at first, he saw a hellish scene in his mind, and the strong sense of panic invaded him, which made him unbearable. He still vividly remembered the experience of running away in the middle of the road, and he felt sorry for Wang Ling was certainly impressed. Although he didn't know what happened at that time, after all, it happened when he was reprimanding Wang Ling. It was inevitable that he would be associated with Wang Ling, and he even specifically checked Wang Ling's information. However, except that he represented the school and won the sports academy, there was nothing surprising about the other files. Director CAO couldn't help but mutter. He never understood what was going on at that time, and the matter just ended. Of course, after all, there was no evidence to prove that Wang Ling did it, and he did not believe that Wang Ling could do things that he could not understand. Although Director CAO was surprised by Wang Ling, he was not too afraid. He glared at Wang Ling, then pointed at Xiao He. "Did you raise this dog?" Wang Ling answered truthfully, "Yes." "Don't you know that dogs can't be kept in schools?" Director CAO continued to ask. When he said this, the anger in his eyes seemed to be brewing. Wang Ling pretended to be confused and asked with a frown, "But, I'm not the only one raising it. There's someone in the girls' dormitory who also raised a puppy. He even carried it to the classroom. Their instructor saw it. You didn't say anything, why can't I do it here?" Seeing that Wang Ling was still quibbling, Director CAO gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and scolded, "She is a little puppy, just for fun. The school turns a blind eye, but you are a big dog, what should I do if I bite someone?" Wang Ling smiled playfully and replied, "But Xiao He is very smart and won't bite people randomly. What dog owner wouldn't say that?" At this point in the confrontation, Director CAO finally got angry. The sound was almost like a roar. The sound was so loud that almost all the remaining students in the corridor could hear it. At one time, more than 10 people poked their heads in to see the excitement. Director CAO seemed to be used to leading such big battles, so he didn't care. He pointed at Wang Ling and then at Xiao He. "No matter what you say, this dog must disappear before night. If it doesn't obey me, I'll throw it out of the window myself." "Good guy, I've only said a few words now, but I've already dropped the harsh words." Woof woof. Roar. Wang Ling hasn't expressed his position yet, but Xiao He has already heard what Director CAO means and knows that he is very hostile to him. He barks twice in succession, the hair on his body explodes, and he makes a low growling sound in his throat, as if he may pounce at any time. Attack out. The conflict between the two sides has already intensified to a certain extent. The students who were just peeking out after hearing the sound gathered at the door of the dormitory, scrambling to look inside. "Xiao He, don't be so impulsive." However, the imagined battle between man and dog did not happen. Wang Ling gave a casual order, and Xiao He, who was originally angry, actually calmed down and sat on the ground, sticking out his tongue and looking at Director CAO. However, anyone with a discerning eye can see the trace of disdain in his eyes. "Damn it, this dog is amazing. Are you so obedient?" The look in his eyes, haha, seems to be contemptuous. Do dogs also have this kind of look? The students who were watching did not mind the excitement and started talking collectively. Being despised by a dog, Director CAO became even more angry and urged, "Did you hear what I said?" Wang Ling's reaction was very strange. He picked up the rice bowl again, and while eating the cakes, he said, "Director CAO, it seems that you and Xiao He will have a hard time today. Come on, I won't be in the middle. Xia He is here, You have to drive it out of the dormitory within an hour, and I promise not to raise it again. As for what method you use, I don't care, even if you beat it with a stick or chop it with a knife, even if you shoot it with a gun, it doesn't matter. What do you think, Director CAO, do you want to make this bet? Hey, this bet is interesting. Isn't it too simple? Just drive the dog out? Are you not using any means? Do you want to accept this bet? Of course I have to take it. If you can't even drive out a dog, why should you ask people not to keep dogs? That's right. No matter how ferocious the black back is, it's only so big. No matter how you use it, you still can't get rid of it. A group of onlookers were very surprised by Wang Ling's bet, and they started talking about it. Director CAO actually had no intention of accepting the bet at the beginning. After all, he was the school leader and could ignore such requests and issue orders savagely. However, the gossip of the students' onlookers made him feel embarrassed. A group of people almost pushed him to accept the bet. Okay, this is what you said. Wang Ling shrugged his shoulders, and then warned, Xiao He, don't bite, be gentle, don't hurt him. You can take care of the rest by yourself. Woof. Xiao He barked, raised his head, and seemed to be provocative with a proud look. The onlookers were amazed. Director CAO obviously didn't realize how difficult this bet was. He thought it would be effortless, so he stepped forward and grabbed the fur around Xiao He's neck, trying to forcefully drag him out. However, Xiao He looked small, but Director CAO was very tall and thick. However, no matter how much he dragged her, Xiao He remained motionless. He even stuck out his tongue leisurely and elegantly, and looked at Director CAO with contempt. Although it is only a black back that is half a meter tall, Xiao He is a police dog trained by Wang Ling himself after all, and has also been injected with intermediate strengthening agents. It is not comparable to ordinary dogs at all. He is said to be the king of dogs. It's no wonder, even if ferocious dogs like Tibetan Mastiffs and Pit Bulls attack in groups, they can't hurt Xiao He at all, let alone Director CAO. I can't help you. After trying to no avail, Director CAO lost his temper and became so angry that he slapped Xiao He on the head with one hand. However, Xiao He's reaction ability was much faster than his, and he temporarily tilted his head and dodged the slap. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 721. Hey. Damn it, has this bitch ever practiced? He can actually hide. Just hide, you can hide so lightly. I can't even do this. Interesting. Seeing Xiao He dodge the slap, the onlookers started commenting again. Even Lao Shui and Lily were a little surprised. However, as Director CAO who took action personally, he was a little confused now. The slap was empty, as if it had finally been thrown on his face. Listening to other people's discussions, his face could not help but feel a little swollen and painful. Snort. Once the slap was in the air, Director CAO was still unconvinced, blinked, and then continued to slap him after regaining his composure. But this slap still made Xiao He lower his head and dodge it casually. That's not all. After dodging the slap, Xiao He even raised his front paws and hooked at Director CAO, actively provoking him. How could Director CAO be so angry in front of a group of people? Not caring about anything else at the moment, he raised his leg and kicked Xiao He up. This guy was really angry and planned to give Xiao He a lesson. But can he teach Xiao He a lesson? When he kicked, Xiao He directly blocked the kick with his front paws, as if he was fighting. You stinky dog. Being blocked by a dog, Director CAO couldn't believe it, but he was also very unwilling to do so. He cursed loudly, and then continued to raise his foot, intending to kick Xiao He's dog's head. However, Xiao He suddenly flicked his front paws, just like doing Tai Chi, throwing Director Cao's kick aside, and even disrupted Director Cao's balance. His whole person staggered, and he would have hit the bed if he hadn't. I'm afraid they will all fall down. Well. When Wang Ling saw this, he couldn't help but sigh and shook his head, and then continued to eat his meal. The outcome of the confrontation between Xiao He and Director Cao had no suspense at all, and Wang Ling just treated it like a show. I thought that Director Cao could be more powerful, but I didn't expect that he was a tall man with a big body and well-developed limbs, but he had never done any specific training. His body balance ability was so poor that Xiao He Sui almost fell down with a casual swing. Somersault. What's the point of this confrontation? At best, it's just for Xiao He to have fun. Oh. It's amazing. How was it trained? It can even block attacks. This dog is awesome, I admire it. However, for Wang Ling, the confrontation was not interesting, but the group of students watched it with gusto and commented. This unabashed voice reached Director Cao's ears, making him blush on the spot, as if his self-esteem had been greatly insulted. The bet lasted for an hour, and it had only been a few minutes. Being watched by a group of students, Director Cao certainly would not give up so quickly. Even out of dignity, he made up his mind to fight with the little black gang today. No matter what, I have to teach this dead dog a lesson. Angry and angry, Director Cao gritted his teeth and said nothing. He stepped forward and punched and kicked Xiao He. However, Xiao He seemed to be an immobile king. No matter how much Director Cao attacked, his hind paws always remained in a crouching position without moving. All attacks came without hesitation. If you could dodge these punches and kicks, you would just stretch out your front paws to block them. Director Cao was busy for a long time, but none of his punches or kicks could really hit Xiao He. Woof woof. After working hard for several minutes, Director Cao ended up in failure. He was so tired that he stood aside and bent over to catch his breath. The mouths of other onlookers also opened in an O shape, obviously shocked. But Xiao He, as if he wasn't satisfied, barked twice, directly provoking, making Director Cao grit his teeth in anger. At this time, Wang Ling couldn't stand it anymore and reminded Director Cao, Xiao He is not an ordinary dog. You can't beat him, so it doesn't matter if you use a guy. Don't worry. Being stared at by a group of people, Director Cao now felt quite shameless. He glared at Wang Ling fiercely and ignored Wang Ling's suggestion. Instead, he looked at Xiao He and cautiously approached. During this period, Xiao He remained unmoved. Director Cao didn't attack, so it didn't make any unnecessary moves. It just showed a look of contempt, constantly irritating Director Cao. Taking advantage of Xiao He's non-resistance, Director Cao had already arrived in front of Xiao He, and then carefully stretched out his hands. When he was about to touch Xiao He, he suddenly let out a strange cry of "Hey!" and quickly grabbed him. Xiao He's two front paws were arched exaggeratedly, trying to throw Xiao He away. But Xiao He's claw was able to knock Wang Ling down to his knees with one claw. It was so powerful that even if Director Cao tried his best, he couldn't move him at all. After trying hard for a long time, but to no avail, Director Cao quickly changed his target, grabbed Xiao He's head, and formed an over-the-shoulder throwing posture, trying to forcefully move Xiao He. However, he continued to exert force for more than half a minute, but not only failed to pry Xiao He, but because of too much contact, Xiao He was a little impatient. He stretched out his front paws and slapped Director Cao on the lower back with a pop sound. On the way, the huge thrust actually pushed Director Cao straight towards the group of onlookers outside the dormitory and hit him. Fortunately, he was blocked by the cooperation of several buddies in front of him. At this point, Director Cao felt like he was riding a tiger, and this embarrassment was always being watched by a group of students. He was constantly getting angry. After he managed to stabilize his body, he actually picked up an iron bench from Wang Ling's dormitory and threw it at Xiao He. Past. He was also driven into panic by Xiao He now, and he didn't care whether he would hurt it. Of course, even if you really want to hurt it, you have to hit it hard. Xiao He's reaction speed is not very fast. When the iron bench was spinning and flying over, he directly extended his claws and stabilized it in mid-air. He grabbed the iron bench, then dragged the bench surface with his claws and gently lowered it down, causing a group of onlookers to marvel. Director Cao was even more shocked and angry. He even doubted whether the person he encountered was a dog. Could it be that he really couldn't handle a dog? Without giving him too much time to shut up, Xiao He finally moved. It rushed to the bench, continued to squat down, and stuck out its tongue, doing so triumphantly. This sultry look really aroused Director Cao. He couldn't help you when he was on the ground, but now you jump on the bench, so don't blame me. Gritting his teeth, Director Cao stepped forward and kicked the bench away with a strong kick. But while it was kicked away, Xiao He jumped up temporarily. After a sudden collision with the bench, it fell gently to the ground without being affected at all, and then continued to squat down and stick out its tongue. I'm going to strangle this dog, it's become a spirit. It's been practiced. It must have been practiced. Most people can't do this move, but a dog can actually do it. Damn it, what a divine dog. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 722. Look at the action just now, it's just like those who have practiced kung fu in the movies. Yeah, is this really a dog? A kung fu dog? Kung fu dog. Haha, this title is a bit interesting. Xiao He Xiao Lu's move shocked everyone present except Wang Ling. This kind of action usually only appears in movies. In reality, it is difficult to appear unless you are an expert who has practiced martial arts for many years. However, now it has appeared on a dog, and it seems to be so understated. How can this not surprise people? A group of students inevitably started talking again. They saw too many unexpected things in Xiao He today. Even Lily, who said she was afraid of dogs at first, couldn't help but poked her head out and looked at Xiao He curiously. TCH, quite chic. The only person who was calm was Wang Ling. He smiled lightly and continued to eat his food. When he heard Wang Ling's voice, Xiao He immediately changed his previous chic look and started wagging his head and tail at Wang Ling. He was obviously acting coquettishly, but he made the onlookers very envious. Of course, there was another person at the scene who was very excited, and that was Director Cao. After more than 10 minutes of trying, he couldn't even get a dog. If this spreads out, other people mustn't laugh out loud, right? However, he really doesn't have any confidence that he can leverage Xiao He now. Indeed, when he got angry, he also thought about finding a stick to deal with Xiao He, but with so many people watching, he really couldn't control his face. Most of the extraordinary abilities that He had shown before were unable to do anything about it, and it was he who made a fool of himself in the end. What to do? Now Director Cao is really in a dilemma, riding a tiger. He even regrets agreeing to Wang Ling's bet. This bastard obviously knows how difficult this dog is and deliberately stumbles him. Of course, what he regretted more was that he was doing something unnecessary. Why bother with such things? However, there is no point in regretting it. Things have already reached this point. If he doesn't get Xiao He out, he will really lose face if he wins this bet. Just when Director Cao was struggling, Wang Ling turned on his phone and looked at the time, and then reminded, Director Cao, it's only been about 10 minutes. You still have a long time. Don't worry. Think about it again. Let's see how to deal with Xiao He. After saying that, Wang Ling simply raised the rice bowl to his mouth and used chopsticks to pick up the last pieces of cake. I miss your grandma's legs. He was calm, but Director Cao was so angry that he wanted to curse. He secretly cursed in his heart, how did you, a bastard, raise such a perverted dog? While slandering, Director Cao noticed Wang Ling's eating movements and suddenly thought about it, yes, am I stupid? Why do I have to use brute force to deal with this difficult dog? After having this idea, Director Cao quickly looked around in the dormitory, as if looking for something. Finally, he locked his eyes on the box of ham sausages next to the little black doghouse. His eyes lit up, and he stepped forward to grab one, brutally broke it into two pieces from the middle, and pulled away the crowd of onlookers behind him. The student exited the dormitory and lowered his body, put down the ham sausage, and made a funny dog sound in his mouth, tisk, 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 out, come here, there is meat to eat. His calculation was quite good. He couldn't defeat Xiaohe with his brute force, so he simply changed his strategy, outsmarted him, and used food to seduce him. No matter how perverted Xiaohe was before, he is still a dog after all. He uses food to tempt you, but is he worried that you won't come out? If it were any other dog, he might have been fooled, but Xiaohe felt like he couldn't get enough food. Faced with the temptation of Director Cao's food, Xiaohe looked at his almost full mouth. After checking the box of ham sausage, he looked at the two pieces that were opened in Director Cao's hand. He grinned and tilted his head slightly, with his eyes as if he was looking at a fool. Ha ha ha, look at those little eyes, how can it be so fun? How many times has Director Cao been despised by dogs today? Ha ha ha, it seems like quite a few times. This dog is very smart. He is guarding a box of ham sausages and will not come out just to get one. Seeing Xiaohe's little eyes, a group of onlookers couldn't help but become happy again. Director Cao's face turned a little dark when he said this. However, from their conversation, Director Cao seemed to realize the problem. He threw away the ham sausage in his hand, rushed forward, picked up Xiaohe's entire box of ham sausage, and ran away with it. Woof woof. Although Xiaohe gradually opened up his intelligence, he was still a dog and was very protective of his food. When his food was taken away, he finally became anxious and rushed forward with two barks. Director Cao is really smart this time. He snatches food from the dog's mouth. Anyway, as long as he can lure Xiaohe out of the dormitory, he will win the bet. However, just as Xiaohe was about to rush out of the dormitory for the box of ham sausages, he suddenly stopped at the door, looked at the box of ham sausages, and then looked at Director Cao very unhappily. In the end, he squatted down there and refused to leave the dormitory. What are you doing? I have a box of ham sausages here. Are you stupid if you don't snatch it from me? Director Cao finally couldn't help but asked. Wang Ling put down the rice bowl casually, shook his head with a smile and said, it is indeed stupid. It even risked its life to wait for me. However, apart from that stubbornness, it is also very smart, even smarter than many people. Be smart and know that this is a bet and you cannot leave the dormitory, so no matter what ideas you come up with, or even punch or kick it, it will not leave the dormitory. Wang Ling is well aware of Xiaohe's stubbornness. After hearing this, the others couldn't help but secretly admire Xiaohei, who was like a door god. Even Director Cao, who had always been fiery before, finally fell silent. Wang Ling didn't know what he meant, and was still urging, Director Cao, there is still a long time, don't be anxious, you can continue to think of other ways. However, to his surprise, Director Cao smiled bitterly and shook his head. He rarely put away his fiery temper. What else can I think of? You bastard knew from the beginning that it was impossible to let it out. This is deliberately trying to create problems for me and make me look embarrassed. Wang Ling shrugged his shoulders, I didn't mean it. I never let it trouble anyone in normal times. If you hadn't insisted on getting rid of it today, I wouldn't have done this. So I didn't create this problem for you. Yes, Director Cao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 723. Isn't that right? Xiaohei stayed well in the dormitory and never caused any trouble. However, he was suddenly reported and attracted such an angry Director Cao who wanted to throw Xiaohei out. Who was responsible for this? Have to? After hearing what Wang Ling said, the girl who made the noise, Lily, couldn't help but blush with embarrassment. She hid behind Lao Shui and lowered her head, unable to say a word. As for Director Cao, he had been furious for so long, but now he has calmed down, looked at Wang Ling with contempt, and then looked at Xiaohei, you are awesome. In my whole life, I have never lost so much. Wang Ling spread his hands, non-committal, but the students who were watching did not mind the excitement and began to encourage him, Director Cao, you can't be cowardly. You still have plenty of time. Can't you really handle it? That's right, keep going. 18 kinds of martial arts, how much can you use just now? Director Cao, keep going. Shut up. You can do it, come on. After a series of urgings, Director Cao was annoyed. If he can't defeat Xiaohei, he can't defeat you guys. A loud roar silenced all the hecklers. After all, he is a school leader, with a high position and authority, and he is so fat and strong. These students do not dare to contradict or provoke him too much. However, Wang Ling had no such scruples and even said with a playful smile, what's wrong, Director Cao, listening to your tone, are you admitting defeat? It seemed that he had made up his mind. Director Cao no longer cared about the face. He sighed and replied, if you don't admit defeat, are you still letting me continue to humiliate myself here? What do you want me to say about you thorns? Internships are not go ahead and blatantly keep a dog in the dormitory. This is a school, not your home. Can you please stop being so unscrupulous? You are students, not hooligans. Although these words still had the meaning of reprimand, Director Cao's tone was much kinder when he said them. Sensing this change in tone, Wang Ling did not act aggressively. He just pretended to be helpless and replied, Director Cao, I don't want to say more about the internship. I also have my own affairs. As for Xiaohei, if not as a last resort, I wouldn't keep it in the dormitory. Besides, although Xiaohei is a large dog and has a strong fighting ability, it is indeed very smart and will never take the initiative to hurt others. You have been fighting with it for so long just now. It can be said that you are embarrassing it in every way. Has it hurt you? After some bad relations, the relationship between the two parties seemed to have eased. When Wang Ling spoke, you was replaced by you, which at least showed some respect. And Wang Ling is not talking nonsense. He has been busy with matters in the Red Alert world. Real-life internships do not mean much to him. As for Xiaohei, if this guy hadn't done something that Wang Ling regretted in the Red Alert world, Wang Ling wouldn't have to permanently summon Xiaohei to the real world now. Oh, you guys are so thorny. Director Cao didn't get angry again, but sighed, as if he had a headache. Wang Ling asked with a smile, Director Cao, you gave up on the bet. Now I'm raising Xiaohei. Is everything okay? What else can happen? I have a bad temper, but at least I can keep my word. Director Cao snorted and replied, but I also have conditions. This dog is called Xiaohei, right? You can raise it, but you can't disturb people by shouting, let alone hurt people. If you can't control it, I'll throw it down anyway. Woof woof. After understanding the last sentence, Xiaohei started to protest and barked twice, which frightened Director Cao. Good. Director Cao is wise. That's right. Dot. Such a fiery director finally agreed to the existence of Xiaohei. The group of students around him who had been fans of Xiaohei immediately became happy. Even Wang Ling replied, thank you, Director Cao, I promise not to do it. It will disturb and hurt people. Director Cao is a close confidant of the school chairman, and even he agreed to the existence of Xiaohei. In this way, Xiaohei became more upright in this school. If he was taken out, he would not have to avoid the school teachers and other schools. For Wang Ling, this saves a lot of trouble. As for the initiator of this incident, the girl who made such a noise, Lily, was particularly ashamed now. However, Wang Ling did not take such a trivial matter to heart. He just looked at Lao Shui and Lily with a playful smile. Both of them had seen the whole process of the confrontation between Director Cao and Xiaohei. Lao Shui was better off, after all, he was not opposed to keeping dogs, but Lily had changed a lot. This girl is still ashamed and feels at a loss. Wang Ling did not embarrass her. He waved and said, Lily. No matter how scared you are of dogs, at least Xiaohei doesn't have to be afraid. If you don't believe it, come and touch it. Huh? Me? Touch it? These words seemed to make Lily hesitate. After seeing Xiaohei for so long, her mentality had inevitably changed a bit, but she was still somewhat fearful. However, in the end, with Lao Shui's encouragement, he stepped forward step by step and touched it carefully. After all, it was Wang Ling's gesture, and Xiaohei did not refuse. He even grinned, showing a naive look because the person he came to touch was a beautiful woman. Wow, look at it, it's so cute. Lily became a fan instantly and completely let go of her wariness towards Xiaohei. But Wang Ling unceremoniously revealed his shortcomings. Oh, this perverted dog behaves like this when he sees a beautiful woman. If it were a man, if I reported it and it wanted to touch it, I wonder how it would resist. My woo. When Xiaohei heard this, he let out a strange cry and closed his eyes, as if he was aggrieved. This series of performances also aroused great curiosity among the surrounding students. They all stepped forward and got close to Xiaohei, stroking the dog's hair. Director Cao, who had been silent for a while, seemed a little itchy when he saw this. This dog is really smart, not bad compared to those in those movies. Besides these, what else can it do? Well, I don't know where I started talking about it. There are so many people who know it. Wang Ling was obviously a little embarrassed. After thinking for a moment, he simply said, let's do this, Xiaohei. You can eat and drink normally in front of them. Eating and drinking? What is this? A group of people, including Director Cao and Lily, were a little confused. Woof woof. But Xiaohei didn't care about this. After receiving the order, he casually dragged the box of ham sausages that Director Cao had moved out of the door back to its original position, then picked up one of the ham sausages and placed it next to the doghouse. He quickly bit open the opening and then tore open the package, which was easier than anyone else. After eating in 3 or 2 mouthfuls, Xiaohei picked up a disposable paper cup and came to the water dispenser on the table. He stood up and placed it under the cold water outlet. He pressed it down with one paw until the water cup was half full. After Mankey released his paw, he carefully returned to the kennel with the water cup in his mouth, poured the water into the small basin specially prepared for it, stuck out his tongue and drank little by little. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanchien Lang. Chapter 724. Bada. Bada, ba. When a dog drinks water, he cannot drink like a human. Instead, he sticks out his tongue quickly and frequently, rolls up part of the water and puts it into his mouth, making it look like he is adding water. With this way of drinking water, it is inevitable that there will be a continuous sound of water. When everyone hears it, they can't help but feel thirsty. Xiao He was originally very smart, not to mention that after being injected with an intermediate enhancer, he gradually opened up his intelligence. This daily routine of peeling ham, eating ham, and catching water is really not difficult at all. Of course, it's not just ham. Even other foods, as long as they are packaged, Xiao He can easily tear them off into big chunks. It can be said that as long as there are reserves of food and water in the dormitory, even if Wang Ling leaves it alone for a long time, this guy can still live happily. However, Xiao He usually likes to let Wang Ling feed it personally. Unless Wang Ling is tired and doesn't want to move, it will move its claws on its own. Let me choke it, it can sizzle the ham pack faster than me. He's really become a sperm. He pours out the water and drinks it. What kind of dog is there? I'm liking it more and more. Of course, it was the first time for others to see what Wang Ling and Xiao He were used to. They were surprised and talked about it for a while. Looking at Xiao He, they liked it more and more. However, this was not over yet. Wang Ling pulled out a piece of toilet paper, wiped his hands and mouth, threw it under the bed, and then said, "Xiao He, sweep the floor." Ha! Sweeping the floor? You let the dog sweep the floor. Can it really sweep the floor? A group of people were in an uproar again, and Lily looked at the toilet paper Wang Ling threw under the bed, and even complained, "You are bullying Xiao He." Wang Ling said unjustly, "Bullying? No, I usually do this work myself. Didn't you want to see something special today, so I made some garbage for you to clean up." Lily, Lao Shui, Director CAO, The other students watching, My woo. Everyone was speechless, except Xiao He, who murmured, licked the corner of his mouth, and then walked to the broom, picked it up with his teeth, and then started cleaning it bit by bit from one end of the dormitory, still looking like he looks presentable and cleans more seriously than the average sloppy boy. This scene completely stunned all the onlookers. Swish. 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 But Xiao He didn't care about this and kept cleaning. Of course, Wang Ling is the only one living in the dormitory now, and as he is used to being a soldier in the Red Alert world, he also cleans the dormitory carefully every day. The dormitory is generally very clean. Only some places are dusty, which Xiao He regards as, after focusing on the areas that need special care, clean them over and over again until they are clean, then gradually sweep away the dust and push outwards. During this period, whether it was the toilet paper that Wang Ling deliberately threw under the bed or the ham sausage packaging that Xiao He had torn off before, it was carefully cleaned into a pile. Then it took the dustpan in its mouth, swept it in bit by bit, and finally took the dustpan in its mouth. Throw these things into the trash can in the corridor and return them to their original places when you come back. This completes the task. However, all the onlookers were stunned by the whole scene, and it took a while before they exploded. Damn it, it's amazing, it's amazing. It's unheard of for a dog to know how to clean. I've learned a lot today. It's called Xiao He, right? I decided to call it Brother He from now on. Many onlookers expressed their emotions excitedly, while Lily complained to Wang Linju, Xiao He is so good and smart, how can you train him to do this kind of work? Wang Ling shrugged his shoulders and was non-committal. On weekdays in the real world, Wang Ling is alone and has only Xiao He for company, which is inevitably a bit boring. And when you are bored, is it strange that you do something? This was also the time when Wang Ling was cleaning. Xiao He insisted on giving it a try. Wang Ling did not refuse, and even instructed him along the way where to clean and how to clean. This time he learned it. Of course, learning comes from learning, and Wang Ling couldn't bear to let Xiao He do this kind of work all the time. Wang Ling did it himself on weekdays. They were all surprised and their reactions were quite normal. However, Director Cao, who had been watching for a while, made Wang Ling feel embarrassed with one sentence: "It should be just an ordinary blackback." "Why, how smart can you be? It's really weird." "Wang Ling, how much did you buy this dog for?" "I'll pay 5 times the price, sell it to me." "Huh?" Wang Ling twitched his lips exaggeratedly, and then said awkwardly, "Director Cao, Xia He is my partner and is not for sale. If you also like it, I welcome you to come often, but I will not sell Xia He." "Hey, don't be in such a hurry." Roar. Director Cao wanted to continue to persuade him, and it seemed that he was indeed attracted to Xiao He. However, before he could finish his words, Xiao He suddenly growled at him, obviously protesting, and this guy really heard what he just said. There was no way. Wang Ling didn't agree, and Xiao He protested. No matter how itchy Director Cao was, he couldn't make such a request again. As a police dog that came out of the red alert world, and has experienced intermediate strengthening and gradually opened up his intelligence, Xiao He can do a lot of things now, but there is no need to deliberately show too much. These are enough for now. Of course, the group of students, and even Director Cao, didn't know Xiao He's true identity. They all admired Xiao He's performance from the bottom of their hearts. Among them, except for Director Cao and Lily, the others had long known about Xiao He's existence, but they never knew that Xiao He was so capable. After getting to know Xiao He again, they felt reluctant to leave for a while. I stayed in Wang Ling's dormitory for a long time, either brushing the dog's hair or feeding it. Some people even shared some of their snacks. Indeed, Xiao He was a little impatient at being touched by so many people, but when he saw some snacks, he didn't resist. Since Wang Ling was there anyway, he didn't worry about these people being harmful to him. After waiting like this for more than half an hour, the group of people gradually dispersed. "When are you considering selling? Remember to ask me." It was rare for Director Cao to stay with a group of students for so long. The key was that he didn't get angry yet. He even gave Wang Ling a special warning before leaving, making Wang Ling dumbfounded. After finally sending everyone away, Wang Ling felt a little more relaxed. He stretched out and returned to his daily life. He stayed in leisure until the evening, and then went to the red alert world. In this red alert world, wars are constantly going on, but the coastal war zone where Wang Ling is now feels strangely quiet for a while. The combined combat power of agents Wang Ling and Tanya made the Yuri base a little restless. After the attack failed, it turned to full defense. However, Wang Ling and Tanya were busy resting and had no intention of attacking for a while. In this way, they stayed until the next morning. Wang Ling had breakfast after getting up and looked at the electronic map. He was thinking about when General Li Wiki would arrive on the battlefield and whether to launch a forceful attack in advance. When Wang Ling saw something in the electronic map, continuous sirens sounded again.